Hello, friends. I'm Wendy Jo, and this is my co-host, Ashley. Welcome to the Grow Podcast.
Hey, Wendy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. We have a big recording day today.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, it has been a big recording day. Just trying to make sure that we stay consistent so people can get access to this spiritual information regularly.
Yes, information, tools, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're talking about numbers, numerology, maybe a little bit. Neither one of us is a numerologist.
No.
And honestly, numbers for me, like on the Osho cards, there's a number on every card. And because I read them intuitively, like I never read the book or anything, I really never thought much about the numbers, and I don't even notice them unless for some reason I'm told to notice it.
Yeah.
So I'm not really drawn to numbers. What about you?
I noticed them. They do mean something to me, but I don't dive into it as much as a numerologist would. So like the singleness of a one, right? Like the isolation of one, like that to me stands out. The duality of two. Those like some of those things make sense, like 10 being completion, or sometimes people say 9 is completion. Like those, things stand out to me. And when I'm interpreting cards specifically, but I don't always look at them. It isn't the driving factor in how I interpret the card. It just plays a part in the entire card meaning. So I don't know. I don't feel like certain numbers just pop out sometimes and I'll notice them, especially repeating numbers. Like, they talk about angel numbers and all those kind of things. Those will stand out to me. But I've never been like, you know what, let me learn what all these numbers mean. Like, no, I just pay attention to what happens to be in my presence.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who does numerology, and he's really specific about numbers, and very drawn to them for meaning. I think so. I see certain numbers, regularly, and if a number is coming up over and over, like I wouldn't say that it's, purposely given to me. Maybe it is, I don't know, but it's more like an attention thing. Like, oh, that house I'm going to is number 222. And yesterday I opened a package and it cost $2.22 to mail it. Like when I start to see synchronicity, then I start to wonder, is there some purpose to this?
Yeah. So it sounds like you're like more like the numbers are the thing. Synchronicity is more important than the numbers itself, right? Like you're not interpreting the numbers, you're recognizing the synchronicity, and it's causing you to be more mindful.
Right. I think that's the thing about numbers. It's like a trigger point to make you more mindful of something.
Yeah.
Because I've never really been into like memorizing the meanings of things.
Yeah.
It's more like, what does it mean to me in that moment? Like you said, is there a synchronicity? What is the purpose of this?
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of how I am about just about everything. Like I don't feel like memorizing any one aspect of a tool is actually, to be honest with you, it really is about the relationship with everything. Right. So what is your relationship? If you play with tarot cards, what is your relationship with the cards? If it's numbers that that you happen to be drawn to in a moment, what is your relationship with those numbers? Right? Like, how do they speak to you? How do you derive meaning? How do you, take action if action is necessary? Or how do you do your introspective work? Right? Like, how do you begin to reflect based off of what was presented to you? So, I think in general, all aspects, all tools, all, things, spiritual work. I don't think there's any one way. I feel like the communication is very, very uniquely specific for each individual person. So I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, that's a really unique perspective, and I think it's one that I can subscribe to also. Yeah, I mean, so and that's not to, knock those that do it in a different way, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
some people, learning all about the numbers and what they mean, in a general way, specific to each number, and then how they use that in their practice, I think, it can be really beneficial. And some people find healing in learning that kind of thing. So I think there's just different ways to approach.
And I think it goes back to purpose too. So a numerologist, there's a reason why they're a numerologist and I'm not, right?
Right.
And so like those are, I think that's divine wisdom that needs to be shared and needs to be passed down and needs to be explored and interpreted.
Mhm.
And so if everybody subscribed to what, I just described a few minutes ago, then there would be no numerologist and everybody be looking at numbers like, okay, I think that mean that today, like.
Right, for sure. Well, we're going to talk a little more about this after this break.
Is that a thing? Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a numerology expert, but just like with any other spiritual tool, it serves as a token. It brings you back to the present state, like a mindfulness strategy. Numbers aren't the only token that I use, but it's one that a lot of other people use too. Certain numbers just mean something significant to me, like 1111 or 555. I even use it when it comes to pricing my products. I want it to mean something to me, even if it doesn't mean anything to the receiver. To be honest, as with every other spiritual tool, it's all about intention. What do you think?
And we're back. So, Ashley, do you want to play with some numbers?
Okay, that sounds like fun. I mean, it does sound like a game. So we were just talking about this before we took our break, and it does sound like a fun game to play to see what numbers mean, or like the first thought that comes to our mind when we hear certain numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So not necessarily us interpreting the numbers, just the thought that pops into our head, right?
Right,
Cool.
for sure. All right. You want to go? You want to give me a number, or you want me to ask you first?
I'll give you a number.
Okay.
32.
32. So immediately, I went to Jesus. I'm not Christian, but it immediately, like, this picture of Jesus in my head. Did he die at 32? I think maybe. I don't know. That's what came in immediately.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. So now we got to Google that because I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe somewhere around there anyway, maybe 31 or 33, but somewhere in that area. But that's what immediately came into my head.
Interesting. Okay. Do me.
All right. How about 53?
I can only think of, you're going to think I'm weird. Ice cream.
Ice cream. All right.
I don't know why.
53 flavors? I don't know.
No, you know what? I actually think it's the number before. Did I say 32 before?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so yeah, it must be lingering from the 32 I said, because that's all I could think of is ice cream.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Okay, let's try 122.
Ooh, 122. I actually felt almost like a shiver of cold.
Okay.
And something about ice. I don't know what that means. Somebody out there might know. but it's interesting because certain, different words elicit different things, numbers, and I'm not sure where that came from, but yeah, and culturally, people have different feelings about numbers too.
Yeah. Well, and some of it is media programming. So, the fact that 32 makes me think of ice cream, that's a marketing strategy, right? Like that is associated because of something that I've observed in my experience.
Right.
And so what if I didn't have that experience? What would I think of? I don't know.
Right.
know.
I don't know. Well, so in China, the number 4 is like our number 13, right? They're very superstitious about the number 4.
Oh, very interesting.
So even hotels in China don't have a 4th floor. And the reason that they're so superstitious about it is because the word in Chinese for death sounds like their word for 4.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I learned this by spending lots of time with a person of Chinese descent who I was talking about how I think 4 is a spiritually significant number. Like there's 4 seasons, there's like really 4 phases of life. Like there's a lot of 4s, and she was like, no.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So I think our culture plays into it too. Like you were saying, advertising can play, I mean, all kinds of things can play into what we think about various things, but definitely numbers.
Yeah, because when I think of 4, I think of balance. Like all I can think of is a square, and like the fact that there's equal sides to the square. And so I don't know if that felt like a good number to me as well, but
Right?
but if it's associated and assigned to death, and based on the language that you speak, I could see why you'd be like, you know what, let's not say that one.
Right. And 9, so in Japan, 9 sounds like in their language, like the word torture.
Wow.
So they don't like the number 9.
Wow.
Which 9 can be a very good number, actually.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely, and of course, then our 13, which I love the number 13, but many people attribute, negative things to 13 too.
Yeah, they do. Just like black cats and such. Meanwhile, I have a black cat. I think the meaning that we project onto certain tokens and objects makes it so, and so if we're like, that number is bad luck, we're going to make it bad luck. We put that energy into it. And culturally, if the collective conscious believes that too, then you're more likely to not change your mind about it. So,
right. Right. Do you have a favorite number?
I don't.
No?
No, I feel like they're all important on the spectrum of the number line. You can't have one without the other. They have to come after and before. There's, it's an infinite. I don't know. Numbers belong here.
Right. I think that's true. I don't really have a favorite, but I have certain ones that I use. Like if somebody asked me to choose numbers for the lottery,
Oh, okay.
I have certain numbers that I'm always going to choose.
Really? Okay.
And I've never won, but well, maybe like $5, but
right.
So I don't know why, but I go right to those numbers, and it's weird. Yeah,
that's so interesting. So if I choose never mind, I won't share that because then you'll know too much about me. But if I do choose numbers, it is based on some other context of how I used them in the past. It's not like I came up with them, or like the number spoke to me in any way that I would use a specific number.
Very cool. Well, we will be right back. So we're talking about numbers today, and it's really interesting to me because I've been an intuitive card reader for almost 30 years. I've primarily used the Osho Zen, and I really hardly ever notice the numbers on them. Unless there's something pertinent for the person who I'm reading for, sometimes the number will just jump out at me, and there'll be more intuitive information for a person because of the number on the card. But I did start to notice that the numbers are different on different cards. Some cards have no number and just that diamond with either a rainbow or a color in it. And some have Roman numerals. Some have just a triangle in the middle, like one of my favorite cards, the Creator card. So I'm sure that there is some meaning to those numbers having to do with major and minor arcana, etc. But I just personally don't feel drawn to numbers enough to investigate further. Now, that said, I know other intuitives who really like numbers a lot and use them in their readings, do numerology readings for people. So really, it depends on you as a healer, what you use for tools, what you're drawn to, what you find meaning in for people to help them in their journey. And of course, numbers mean different things culturally, like we talked about in the show today. But, if it is something that you're drawn to, you may want to investigate further and use it in your practice, whether it's with reading cards or pendulum or whatever tools you choose. Hey there, Wendy Jo, co-host of the Grow podcast. Also, Wendy Edge, occupational therapist. And I wanted to tell you about my new business where I'm combining the principles of occupational therapy, coaching, and spirituality, and wellness, of course. On the website, you'll see that I'm doing Osho Zen card readings, spiritual coaching, spirit paintings, and so much more. So if you want, check it out, edgecoachingandconsulting.com.
Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The High Align Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
And we're back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about angel numbers. Do you know anything about them, or do you subscribe to what they mean, or I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I really don't know very much about them. I hear people say that, and certainly 1111 is one that people talk about all the time. And I think I started noticing 1111 simply because everyone talks about it.
Yeah, I think that's where we are as far as especially on social media. People talk about certain things over and over again, and it just becomes part of our consciousness. And so 1111, 2222, those numbers, they show up often in the social media world, at least. But I do think that it's nice to have tokens to bring you back to mindfulness, make you more aware, to notice the synchronicities. But they say that all the angel numbers have some specific meaning. So angel 1111, actually, it means that you're on the right path, right?
Okay. That's why I didn't know. And I think maybe I looked it up a long time ago, but then sort of went out of my head. Okay. So it makes sense to me why people notice it, right?
Yeah. It's I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in this moment. And it just kind of makes you say, oh, what am I doing? Am I brushing my hair? Oh, wow, this is, in divine timing kind of thing.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. Another one is 555 is like a transformation is going to come.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
so if that shows up, yeah. So an easy way to use it is on your clocks. If it's 5:55 p.m., paying attention to what's happening around you, taking note of what type of transformation may be interjecting its way into your life in that moment, are just ways to just think about the world. Take a second to breathe. Take a second and look around.
I love it as a key to triggering mindfulness.
Yeah.
Because mindfulness has so many curative properties to it by practicing it. So whether or not you subscribe to the number part of it, if it's a trigger to get you to really be in the moment you're in, I'm all for it.
Yeah. And I think that's really the important part for me. So you mentioned earlier, the synchronicities are the trigger for you to notice certain things. For me, it's just finding different ways to be mindful and be present and to be here in my body on earth in a moment. This Piscean, I'm a Pisces, so wanting to be floating and thinking and everywhere else. So just finding those ways to tether myself down to reality is why I do it.
I love that. With purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.